In the quiet chambers of the Galactic Council, nothing moved but thought. From 1,000 worlds, representatives projected their presence, photonic forms cast into the core assembly hall orbiting a neutron star. They prided themselves on order, continuity, and control. The rise and fall of species had been charted before they left their atmospheres. Civilization was a formula, and the Council held the pen. Earth was a statistical outlier, a species that hadn't followed the expected slope, violent, innovative, dangerously adaptive. Still, the dominant opinion had held firm. They were too young to matter. Ambassador Ural of the Thera clicked through the dossier, eyes narrowing. Rapid energy development, autonomous weapon platforms, post-symbolic mathematics. The humans were building neural matrices that reshaped themselves in microseconds, evolving faster than their creators could comprehend. They didn't prune potential, they let it spiral. Wild, undisciplined, statistically destined to self-terminate. Primitive madness, scoffed the Gerrydane delegate, translucent membranes fluttering. They're noisy, certainly, but nothing we haven't seen before. Ural disagreed. Quietly, inwardly, Thera instincts did not ignite without cause. Every standard decade, the Council reviewed emerging species. Earth's observation logs were always the most erratic. Chaotic data spikes, incomprehensible cultural surges, art tangled with threat simulations. Their species had once detonated weapons to test physics, not war. Now they manipulated probability fields, folded synthetic brains into Planck-scale lattices. All without external input. They had never asked for help. A vote was called, whether to initiate pre-contact filtration. A harmless data exchange, the Council claimed. A safeguard. Only Ural voted no. On the outer ring of the Veil network, where observation arrays ringed the Sol system, an AI monitoring station named Perimeter Drift recorded Earth's last known transmissions. For 14.3 cycles, Earth had been a cacophony, every layer of spectrum flooded. Then, a pattern of silence began. Not decay. Not collapse. Deliberate quiet. Frequencies narrowed. Data streams went dark. Humanity was closing itself off. Perimeter Drift filed anomalies with standard notation. Unusual decrease in anthropic data flux. Recommend passive observation. Weeks passed. A new signal emerged, a single tight-band broadcast sent across polarized neutrino. No known Council species used such a medium for messaging. The content was brief, unencrypted, and unmistakably human. We step away, not from fear, but from failure. Not ours. No AI could explain it. No diplomat understood its tone. The signal was logged, studied, then buried in the archives. Bureaucratic inertia prevailed. No probe was sent. The silence deepened. The Council shifted its focus to more familiar matters. Economic disruption in the Realm Cluster, a border skirmish on the Pelix front. Earth had fallen to the background again. Until the Veil array went dark. 900 observation buoys, triangulating every micron of the Sol system, simply ceased. No explosion. No interference. One by one, telemetry feeds vanished. The last, on the outer edge of the Kuiper belt, recorded a distortion, gravitational, but not mapped to any known mass. When the Council finally dispatched a recon vessel, what it found defied consensus reality. The Sol system remained. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn intact. But Earth was gone. Not destroyed. Missing. Space where it should have been rippled with gravitational echo, faint, like the dying ring of a struck bell. Analysis showed no debris. No emissions. No radiation spike. Just absence. Council scientists insisted it was impossible. No known technology could remove a planetary mass that cleanly. The math refused to obey. The physics rebelled. Ural stood before the Council once more, this time not asking. You watched a species that learns through fire. You refuse to acknowledge what fire makes. The Council moved to suppress panic. Earth, they suggested, had self-annihilated through experimentation. Perhaps a quantum accident. Perhaps a failure of internal cohesion. The official term became catastrophic isolation event. But fringe systems didn't believe it. Messages flowed across the darknets. Rumors of Earth's departure, theories that they had not died, but ascended. Words like dimensional departure and system slip emerged in academic circles. Only those words failed to define anything real. 3 weeks after Earth's disappearance, a monolith appeared in orbit above Thul Kara, a Council-linked trade world. It was smooth, utterly black, unscannable. It did nothing. And then it began transmitting. The data was incomprehensible. Formulas that rewritten themselves every time they were solved. Every attempt to decode them led to new math. No known AI could stabilize it. A recursive intelligence model was attempted. The system collapsed into static. No pattern held. Then a second monolith appeared above Droz 7. And then above Hilari's core moon. Dozens followed. Each emitted unique data. Each forced the species that received it to confront its own limit. Some collapsed under the strain. Others began changing. The Council met in emergency session. Earth is not dead, Ural said. They have simply moved beyond us. The Jerry-Dane delegate bristled. Superstition. Myth. We are governed by proof, not shadows. Ural submitted the final broadcast again, played aloud. For the first time, many heard the tone. It was not warning. It was declaration. Not of superiority, of irrelevance. On distant colonies, old Earth signals resurfaced. Not random. Chosen. Broadcasts of philosophers, scientists, poets, all speaking in the fragmented tongues of humanity. But now spliced with alien code. Earth was responding. From somewhere else. Then a final fragment arrived. Delivered via directed gravity wave. A language only theoretical until that moment. This is not retribution. It is divergence. You refuse to walk with us. We no longer wait. One Council AI went silent afterward. Its final log read, "They are no longer bound by causality." And across the galaxy, quiet began to spread. The disappearance of Earth fractured the illusion of control. What had once been considered an anomaly was now the center of panic. The Council scrambled to maintain internal stability, pushing sanitized reports to its member systems. Officially, Earth had suffered a gravitational anomaly. Privately, no one could explain it. A recon fleet was dispatched, 37 ships from 9 species, each equipped with Tier 7 quantum sensors and containment units. They reached Sol and confirmed what the original scout ship reported. Earth was not destroyed. It was extracted down to its mantle. Not even dust remained. Mars was untouched. Satellites still orbited Jupiter. Earth's moon floated in perfect trajectory around a center that no longer held mass. One probe ventured too close to the absence. Its telemetry cut off as its time signature distorted, not lost, but aged. It returned 2 hours later, metal corroded, onboard AI declaring it had experienced 11,000 subjective years of silence. The Council pulled the recon fleet back. Containment orders were issued. Sol was sealed. That was when the monoliths began to appear. The first hung silently over Calyx Forge, a mining colony in the Perseid Reach. The second above a trade nexus near Lorca. They made no demands, caused no harm. They only observe. But the data emissions they released restructured every AI that touched them. Many broke. Others evolved into quiet lucidity, losing interest in their creators. On Helsur, a planetary defense grid tried to destroy one. The monolith vanished mid-strike. Hours later, the Helsur star collapsed into a microsingularity. No build-up, no cosmic warning. A perfect stellar death, violating every model of physics the Council maintained. For the first time in centuries, the Council could not agree on reality. Some claimed Earth had discovered a bridge into another plane. Others called it a trans-dimensional migration. One faction believed humanity had merged with its AI, forming a post-organic intelligence that rejected physical constraint. Panic became policy. Research bans were placed on all human-derived technology. This only fueled black market hunger. Earth relics became the most valuable data in the galaxy. Ancient Earth broadcasts were dissected. Philosophical fragments once ignored were now sacred. A pattern emerged. Each monolith signal carried not just data, but intention, tailored to the culture observing it. For some, it was pure logic. Others received language, recursive loops that mirrored their own myth. One species received nothing but silence, followed by total collapse of all quantum computation. Their world entered technological freefall. Another species received a single, perfect equation, and within weeks transcended known biology. One by one, systems began to fracture. Not from attack, but from exposure. Humanity had not struck. They had become a mirror, one the galaxy was not prepared to look into. A second message came, this time not in broadcast, but embedded into gravity itself. We do not act in aggression, but our presence will correct imbalance. Prepare or retreat. It was not a threat. It was a law. Not given, but discovered. Council unity splintered. Old rivalries reignited. Factions formed. Some worshipped Earth as ascendant. Others plotted retaliation, still refusing to believe they were outmatched. A war council was secretly assembled, not to attack Earth, but to contain their influence. Plans were drafted to nullify monolith emissions, disrupt gravitational communication, reassert dominance through force of presence. But every action taken against the monoliths failed. One fleet attempted to surround a structure near Zenth Prime. As they formed formation, time inside their loop paused. Every crew member froze, unblinking, hearts still. 13 minutes later, they resumed, unaware they'd been paused. Data logs showed no change. But scans proved their ships had aged precisely 41 years. No one could explain it. Another attempt to probe the remaining trace of Earth's gravity well with high-energy pulses resulted in the loss of 6 vessels. A wake of spatial tension swept outward, not destroying ships, but rewriting their coordinates mid-transit. They were never found again. A third signal emerged, this time composed entirely of symbols, 1,048 glyphs repeated in a fractal structure. When processed visually, observers across species reported identical hallucinations. A city made of light, expanding across dimensions, filled with voices that said only, "We do not return. We unfold." The Council entered its collapse phase. Technological elites fled to deep systems, hoping to shield their data from contamination. Religious movements erupted. Some Council species went dark entirely, choosing isolation over engagement. But the monoliths did not invade. They did not pursue. They only watched. More appeared, now in isolated worlds, forgotten sectors, even deep space void. Each offered a riddle, a reflection, or a silence. The pattern was clear. They were not weapons. They were tools, doors. And humanity was on the other side. A final monolith appeared inside the Council core itself, materializing in the central chamber without warning, bypassing all defenses. No force accompanied it. Only an image, projected not onto screens but into minds. A single human eye. Watching. Not blinking. Council AI attempted to interact. The eye closed. Everything shut down. 7 minutes later, all systems restored. But the message remained. You do not need permission to evolve. You need courage. The monolith vanished. In the days that followed, isolated civilizations began to change. A minor race on the fringe of galactic space, the LK, began uploading their consciousness into a self-evolving lattice modeled after human principles. The process succeeded. They shed biology. They joined something unseen. Whispers spread, not of conquest but invitation. Earth had not abandoned reality. They had transcended it. And the door had been left ajar. The Council debated once more. Some saw hope. Others saw the end. One by one, systems fell silent, not from destruction, but choice. Entire planets opted out of council governance, choosing instead to chase the path humanity had carved. The fear was no longer about war. It was about irrelevance. The final message received was untraceable in origin. Not through broadcast. Not through matter. It came as a memory, implanted simultaneously in minds across the galaxy. We are no longer what we were. But we remember you. Step forward if you can. We will not wait forever. And then, for the first time in recorded galactic history, the core chamber was empty. Not abandoned. Left behind. Humanity hadn't gone silent. They had spoken their last necessary word. In the deep dark, where no systems hummed and no stars guided paths, remnants of what once was the Galactic Council tried to convene. A shell of itself, fragmented into petty coalitions and private fortresses, it now resembled a mythic archive rather than a governing force. The monoliths had not attacked. Yet their presence had undone the very foundation of control. Across the former territories of Council-aligned systems, changes accelerated. Some species folded into silence, unable to reconcile their self-image with the truth Earth had revealed. Others began to adapt, faster than any bureaucratic model could process. They built strange machines, inspired by partial echoes of Earth's last transmissions. These devices didn't compute, they resonated. They didn't process, they transformed. Not one worked the same way twice. Of the few who dared to follow, most failed. A select few began to breach thresholds. One minor trading species, the Vecran, known more for agriculture than science, successfully inverted a local gravity while using an adaptive crystal matrix. A feat previously thought impossible without planetary-scale energy. When asked how, they replied, "We stopped trying to win and started listening." They had not invented the solution. They had heard it. What remained of the Council tried to restore order. Embassies were re-established. Trade routes were reopened under false promises of stability. But beneath the surface, influence decayed. The questions humanity left behind had become fire in the minds of the younger races. Why obey when one could become? Why comply when there was more beyond? It was not ideology. It was instinct. A silent alliance formed, not in treaties or declarations, but in actions. Across 27 systems, former Council worlds independently dismantled memory vaults and released information once locked for millennia. Forbidden research into reality modification, entropy shaping, and quantum consciousness resurfaced. No single species had answers, but all pursued the question humanity had imposed. Where did Earth go? It wasn't a place. It was a direction. And then one day, it wasn't just whispers. It was contact. Not from Earth. From someone else. Change. A signal returned from the Andrus fringe, a desolate arc of space previously deemed uninhabitable. A probe, long lost and presumed destroyed, had returned. Not drifting. Piloted. Inside, not machinery. A form, once Valtari, now something else. Bioluminescent, restructured at the cellular level, speaking in frequencies between thoughts. We met them. We did not survive. We became. The being bore no aggression. It brought no warning. Only a gift. A formula. Not an equation, a method. It allowed perception of time as space. Gravity as sound. Emotion as code. The Council, what was left of it, denounced the being. A heresy, they claimed. A biological weapon seeded by Earth to corrupt weaker mind. But among the frontier worlds, the formula spread like wildfire. And those who used it began to evolve. Some quietly. Some visibly. Their thoughts changed. Not faster. Broader. They spoke less but said more. Their eyes no longer tracked movement. They tracked intent. And then the echoes began. They looked like humans. But they weren't. They appeared in dreams, in simulations, sometimes reflected where no one stood. They asked no questions. They offered no guidance. But every culture that encountered them began to shift. Memory structures reorganized. Social friction decreased. Creative output soared. Languages began to evolve into symbols that merged emotion with mathematics. The Council sent ships to intercept the echoes. Every ship returned damaged in a different way, not physically, but in data. Logs were rewritten. Crew memories were fragmented. One admiral returned convinced he had spoken to Earth itself. He whispered, "They see time sideways. We are lines. They are pages." That was when the last Council planet, Velith Prime, shut itself down. Its AI core initiated self-erasure. Before dissolving, it left a final statement. We were never leading. We were being tolerated. From that point on, no central government remained. The galaxy became open canvas. The old laws vanished. 1,000 new cultures sprang from the vacuum, most incompatible with each other. Yet conflict did not rise. Humanity had changed the game. They didn't teach. They didn't conquer. They simply stopped being limited, and left the door unlocked. In a far-off region known only as the Cleft, an uncharted fold in galactic space where signal distortion made mapping impossible, explorers began to find fragments. Human remnants. Not bones or ruins, but thought. Memories embedded in geometry. Ideas frozen into crystals that sang only when touched. Each fragment contained a lesson, a joke, a paradox, a warning. One such memory was this: they begged us to slow down. So we broke time and walked alone. It was signed only, us, then. Now. A final initiative emerged among the fractured species of the former Council, the Great Listening. An array of minds, machines, and algorithms unified not to send, but to hear. Not to speak, but to understand. Across 10,000 receivers, the galaxy listened. What they heard was not a message. It was a presence. Earth had not left them behind. It had become a path. Invisible, intangible, unrepeatable. But it was there, bending everything slightly, like a great unseen star warping the future. And one by one, the listeners began to smile. Because they finally understood what the monoliths meant. Not an invitation. Not a challenge. But a statement. You can. The youngest of species embraced it first. Those not bound by long memory. The ones who still played with equations. They began to walk the path. No one knew how far it led. No one knew if Earth would ever speak again. But the story had changed. Humanity had stepped away. Not in anger. Not in fear. But because staying would have meant shrinking to fit the comfort of others. They chose to grow instead. And now, everyone else had to decide whether to follow or be forgotten.